Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. It's always a pleasure when we have a local author come into the studio and introduce us to her work or his work. In this case, it is her work. Eve A. Olsen is in the studio. She is an author, and she's got a couple of books we're going to talk about. One is called Wife Wanted. It's described as a sizzling Western adventure, romance included, right, Robin?
Yep.
And then the other one is called The Enchanted Hollow, a book for young readers. And so two kind of totally different styles, I guess you would say. Eve is a model. She worked in Hollywood as an entertainment reporter. She wrote a syndicated column for over 200 newspapers nationwide. She rode 100 miles along the Outlaw Trail in Wyoming. Really, the Outlaw Trail.
It's one of my favorite.
She's a talented author and illustrator, and a horse trainer, dog trainer, and our guest. So what an honor. And you're doing a book signing at the Bellevue Public Library a week from tomorrow. No, this coming Saturday, right? No.
A week from
A
Saturday.
week from Saturday, yeah. I'm
April 7th.
confused. I'm thinking we're already in April. I'm thinking ahead. This is the way it is when you do a radio show. You just, I'm sure you did it as a journalist too. Good morning, Eve. Nice to see you.
Well, good morning.
Thank you for coming
Pleasure.
in. So what an eclectic couple of avenues you've been on in your lifetime, huh?
I've
You've kind of done
been a
everything.
clothing designer. I've liked to try everything.
Yeah?
I've tiled my own house.
You did what? Oh, tiled your own house?
I've
Nice.
trained my horses. I do renovation. Whatever. I'd like
Really?
to try everything.
Is that where have you always been that way? Is like when you were a little girl, were you doing everything?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah. I
Were,
was
were you
before.
writing and illustrating as a child?
I have wrote my first chaptered illustrated book in 3rd grade.
You did?
Yeah. I think,
Wow.
I think most people who write always write.
Always been making up stuff and stories?
You just think of those things. Other people just don't think up stories all the time, and you actually think up stories. And,
Were you writing for your classmates or for your... Do you have any siblings?
I have siblings. I did not write for my siblings.
You did not write for them?
And I didn't write for my classmates. I wrote for myself.
You wrote for yourself, okay. And were you an avid reader as well as a writer?
Voracious. I used to call myself the garbage disposal of literature.
Oh, really?
Oh, that's wonderful.
I read everything, whether it's sci-fi, fantasy, classics.
Oh, really?
Everything is interesting. If it's well written, I like to read it.
And do you find writing different than what you did in Hollywood, or is it kind of the same thing?
No, completely different. Writing stories is so pleasurable. Writing interviews, you are at the mercy of the person you're interviewing. So if your person's interesting and entertaining, you've got a fantastic article. If you have someone who really doesn't have any interests, you're like, where am I going to dig out something about this, please?
Yeah.
Don't you have anything you're passionate about? Anything?
And then if you don't, you get blamed for it, right?
Oh, yeah. And if the article's boring, then of course
They
you're
blame
boring.
you.
Just like if a photo shoot doesn't work out, they blame the model.
Oh, my gosh.
Tell me about your modeling. How did that happen for you?
Well, this was when I was much younger when I was modeling actively. And
You could still be a model.
well, thank you. But I don't want to go do go-sees down in Orlando. I did talk to somebody in a modeling agency about it.
Is that right? It would make sense that we would have more models. You know what I mean?
My age group now, 57, is a very popular age group. And yeah, I was,
You're 57?
yeah.
Wow. Wow. You don't look 57 at all.
Well, thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. All right. So,
But you were in London.
I was in London, and I was
Days.
18, 19 years old. The cover of Wife Wanted are 2 photographs of me. One was one of the headshots that was used in my modeling portfolio, and the other is a horse I trained in Colorado when I was about 22 or 23 years old.
So all of these things that we've only glazed over real quickly, do they show up in your writing? Are they parts of your
My
stories?
writing is all about my life experiences. I write about what I know. My heroine, it's not an autobiography, Wife Wanted. It was written on a premise because I thought the Wife Wanted personals was so amusing, and this young model who's been damaged and no longer can work as a model decides to go for it and take a housekeeping, being a wife job out in Wyoming.
Oh, really?
And so she goes for it in exchange for the security of being a wife, and all she has to do is take care of the house for this.
So she answers the ad.
She answers the ad because she wants it. She's ready for a change. She has nothing going on in her life, and she was raised on a ranch.
What kind of a guy places that ad?
Well, you'd have to read the book, but Damon's a little bit sour. His previous wife did not work out, and his ranch is about 5 miles back of Beyond, or I should say 5 hours drive back of Beyond in the middle of Wyoming, so that not every housekeeper is anxious to go out and do work there. It's a little harder to get staff.
So why does he ask for a wife instead of just a housekeeper? I mean...
Because they couldn't get a housekeeper, because no housekeeper wanted to be traveling 10 hours round.
Well, I mean, there's a
Yeah.
sexual implication when you say the word wife.
Well,
right?
I said, well, it wouldn't be much of a sizzling romance if she was just the housekeeper.
Okay, all right. That's what I'm kind of trying to pull out of you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, no, there's some absolute
so was that fun?
sizzle.
Was that fun to write? That's that kind of thing.
It's fun. I have to say, sometimes it makes me blush.
Yeah, me too. I would have to get up and go walk around or something.
And then when I'm rereading and editing, I'm blushing again.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But
so that
I've had the most remarkable people contact me afterwards, either on Facebook or family members, even over in Norway, who said, "Oh, we love this part."
Oh, my.
Oh, and then somebody else like, my cousin's wife from the South was like, "Oh, do you think it was okay that he did that?" This is very conservative. This is not 50 Shades of Grey at all.
Right.
I mean, this is married, consensual.
But it's
still sizzling.
An enjoyable read.
Oh,
and
it's an absolutely enjoyable
it's-
read, and it's a real page turner. Eliza, she goes out and she does things. There's roundups, there's mountain rescues, I love Louis L'Amour. I love a plot-driven novel, so I've done a plot-driven novel.
Look at this. You got five-star ratings across the board on the book called Wife Wanted. We'll talk about the other one in just a second. So
I've been tickled. People
that's
have been
pretty
loving
good.
it.
That's pretty good.
I run into them now at the book signings, people who've read it at a previous one, from a previous one. "Oh, I loved your book. It was great. My husband loved it too."
Now that's nice.
Because it is plot-driven. It's not a bodice ripper. It's a Western with sizzle.
Did your husband read it and say, "I didn't know you like this"?
My husband read it, and he was the one who said, "This is not for women, honey."
Well,
I think it is.
No, he meant not just for women, I should say.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this isn't just for women. Yeah.
Yeah, I think as a man, we like to read what women write, especially when it comes to sex, because we think, well, that's kind of telling us what you want.
Precisely.
I think that's probably why we read that. I don't know. Is that why women read like men's magazines, right? For the same reason? Or
I think men are easier.
We're more obvious. Yeah, we're more obvious. Yeah. So good for you. And so I'm sorry, I asked this already, and you might have answered, and I didn't grasp it. When did the book come out?
The book was out this fall.
Okay.
This last fall.
Is that you on the cover?
That is both me on the cover.
On the horse and the close-up.
Yes.
Oh, and that was on the cover of Life?
Not the cover of Life.
Oh, okay. Oh,
This
the cover
was-
of Wife.
Cover of Wife.
Oh, I thought you said the cover of Life earlier.
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
I misunderstood. Okay. Well, good for you. Congratulations. So, in writing a book that has sizzling parts, are you do you keep it away from your priest and stuff like that? Do you tell him don't read this one?
Well, I don't go to church.
You used to the same name on both books.
I'm not active in any organized religion, so.
Okay. But okay, I was just being silly. But your mom, dad, are they?
My mother loves the book.
Okay,
She's a
okay.
business lady up in New York City. My 92-year-old aunt said, "I like all the relations between that couple. They're just terrific, Eve." So.
Well, good.
And the editors, I've been working with 2 retired editors who've been mentoring me.
Did that surprise you that people that you
I
you
think healthy sex life is super important in the couple, that it creates harmony in the couple.
It does, I think.
And so, yeah, absolutely. So I don't think any of them thought that there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, this
I know,
is
but
not a
as the
strange or
child-
kinky book.
I know,
Right.
but as the child, if you're, I mean, you said you blushed when you were writing it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's just because it's fairly...
It's very cool. All right, so
fairly detailed.
so tell me about the Enchanted Hollow. This is for children?
The Enchanted Hollow is a fantasy about children. I've been informed by several people, including the editors that have been helping me, that it's a fantasy, and anybody who loves animals and the magical bond between people and animals enjoys the Enchanted Hollows. So I've gotten actually a lot of input from adults that they've loved it, and I've stopped just saying that can be read by children. It's not too complicated. A good reader by 8 or 10 years old can absolutely read the book. There's nothing in it that isn't G-rated. But my characters are unconventional. In the Hollow, the cell phones don't work and internet doesn't work, but the animals talk. The animals are opinionated, and they're not people in animal costumes. They're based on different animals that I lived with over the years, including one show horse who I had for 26 years.
That's pretty amazing.
I was deeply devoted to. And he was nicknamed Master of the Universe by my husband. And John Henry in the book, his alfalfa, you had better not touch his alfalfa.
Yeah, because
It's not a joking matter.
Isn't this what we do with pets, right? We sort of kind of communicate with them.
We do communicate with them.
Yeah.
There is no question.
Back and forth, not just one way, right?
Oh, yeah. It's all about listening with your heart instead of just listening with your ears.
And the words you use, they're big words, and you do not talk down to the reader of the book. So it's very, very, it's a wonderful book that piques the young reader's curiosity, because they can read that to their younger siblings, and they'll be able to share something enchanted.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I said that to other people, that it's not, I don't talk down to the children. When I was a child, I felt very grown up in these, so I treat the children like that too. These children use their own judgment. They go around and explore Florida on their own. They're not having their hands held every moment, somebody saying, don't do this, don't do that.
Right.
My young heroine tells the other boy, be careful, don't go in there. The alligators are there. It's, the children are expected to use their own good judgment. And, just like I did when I was a kid. I explored and I did everything on my own.
So when you hear when people making a big deal out of somebody who calls himself the horse whisperer, and I'm not picking on whoever that guy is, but for you that's just second nature, right?
This is funny. This is a joke in our house, because the horse that this John Henry horse is based on, His Highness, liked to be shouted to. And so I used to say, I'm the horse shouter, because he wanted me to yell to him, you're looking fabulous today.
Oh,
he was
nice.
not interested in me whispering.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
right.
yes,
So all the
yes.
animals, I walk in the house and I'm like, how are the babies? And everybody's like, we're fabulous. We have one little dog. She only eats if you tell her she's amazing. In that word, amazing.
Is that right?
Darling, you're amazing. She goes,
Wow.
I can eat my dinner now.
That's right. Now she knows she's being paid attention to.
And she doesn't eat off plastic either, only off china.
So how
there you
many
go.
animals do you have?
Right now we have 2 minis and 2 thoroughbreds, all of whom have been rescued in different capacities.
Okay.
They weren't sad stories, they just needed homes.
And they're happy being with you.
Well, I've had the 2 thoroughbreds for over 15 years and the minis now for 6, and everybody's very happy.
Do you
It is
ride
a
the
spoiled
thoroughbreds?
bunch. They get ridden, everybody gets ridden every other day. And the 2 minis, they're just little criminals in their paddock and hang out together and keep the 1 thoroughbred company when the other one goes out, so he doesn't fret.
Oh, that's amazing.
In writing a book, do you already know when you start how it's going to end, whether it's the book for children or Wife Wanted?
I have a general outline
idea?
of what I would like to have happen in the book, that there are certain elements that I want to incorporate, that I wanted to incorporate a plane crash, that I wanted to incorporate a mountain rescue, that these things I wanted to incorporate, and then the book writes itself in between.
So what is it like? Is it like getting in the car and not knowing where you're going, or is it like having a map and knowing exactly where you're going?
I think it's like when I was riding in the woods as a kid, which is I have an idea in my mind where I'm going, and I know how to get there. But if I had to describe everything on the step-by-step
But you
basis in
wouldn't-
advance, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Did you camp along the Outlaw Trail, or was that a
Yes, we
day?
did. It was part of it. I just got in touch with a woman, in fact, the guide on Facebook after years, this week. At any rate, in Great Divide Tours did these very challenging horse tours. And so
Why was it called the Outlaw Trail?
it was part of the Butch Lacasse, a hole in the wall. I've been there.
Oh, okay. So
the
they
hole
knew.
in the wall. Yeah. So
I mean, the law knew their trail,
it's
or not till after it was all done.
Oh, sure, they knew the things. Yes, and they knew how to get to hole in the wall. But hole in the wall was basically a completely defensible place by one guy.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
it's a little V in the rocks, and one guy can hold off an army from there.
Wow.
So, Yeah, so they know, just like they knew the route of the Pony Express Trail. So we went on both of those, and then we did a wild horse drive, a horse herd drive through wild horse sanctuary country.
How cool is that?
And that was terrific and very challenging. We rode over 200 miles that week.
So what do you do for fun?
What do I do?
Or is this all fun, isn't it?
I was going to say, for fun, I think
everything
my
you're just talking about is fun.
I think life is enjoyable.
Well, that's why I'm asking.
I love to go boogie boarding at the beach. That's my second favorite ride after riding my horses.
Wow.
My riding, I make the time for. My neighbors all say, "Oh, it's so nice you had the time." Well, my neighbors don't work till 2 a.m. like I do.
Oh,
So
gosh.
they see me out at noon and they think all I do is ride. I'm like, yes, I only ride and eat bonbons. The rest of the time we don't take care of the horse farm, my 1.5 acres of landscaped garden, huge swimming pool that only I will be the cabana boy for. On and on. My husband is a nonstop worker too, so he's either mowing, taking care of paddocks, fixing fences for the one-horse destruction machine.
How did you find Ocala?
In a magazine.
Which
I was
magazine?
living in the wine country and was wanting a change in the American Horse Show Association magazine, which the American Horse Show Association doesn't even exist anymore. They had 6 weeks of horse shows in Ocala, and I was wanting to move back east because I was raised in New York.
Okay.
And I miss the humidity. California's dryness and the endless
So
lack of
you-
rain was depressing.
You in Northern
Oh,
California?
my.
I was in Northern Cal. Yep, I lived up in Sonoma wine country.
Okay.
You have a really good rapport with people, and throughout your book signing events, you have some fun stories.
Oh, absolutely. So the most unusual story that happened to me in a book signing, gentleman came over, talked to me for a bit, bought 2 of the books. It was very nice. Then he told me he was also an author, so I looked him up on Amazon. I see his name and look at his face. And there's something that's kind of twitching in my brain a little bit. He talks, and I've been doing signings at different local restaurants. Mary Gary of Artisanal Dish is the one who first started me on these signings.
Okay.
And called the radio station to have you all come meet me. And so I'm looking at the guy, and he buys both books. And he goes in, and the last thing he says, "Oh, I'm a lawyer." And normally, like, okay. And then I realize who he is. A decade ago, in my lawsuit against an ex, he deposed me. And I saw him across the deposition table.
Wow.
And he didn't talk to me for very long because my lawyer said I gave the best deposition he had ever had any of his clients give. And I was a nightmare for the other side because I remembered everything that should be said about their guy that shouldn't be said as far as they were concerned. So he had me sit down after 15 minutes. He didn't want to talk to me anymore.
So how did you meet your current husband?
It's funny. I go out 2 nights a year. And one is for my birthday, and one is for Halloween, because I love to costume. I love the costumes. I've been the swamp fairy. I've been a witch. Unusual outfits. I love the goth stuff.
That you designed.
I've been a dead fairy. Well, I've used
That you
dead
bought from-
fairy?
I've done costumes I've gotten from young designers on eBay.
Oh,
as well.
wonderful.
Anyway, so I did tell the lawyer, though, that I knew where I met him from. So, and I have just the
Did he
same
know
smile
you?
on my face. And he goes, "I don't remember you." I
Oh, he
said,
didn't remember
"There's
it.
no reason why you should. It was 10 years ago."
Yeah, sure.
I said, "I'm sure you've had tons of
It was
cases."
a life-changing moment for you, not for him.
Yes, well.
Yeah.
Well, we won, so it was fun.
We're speaking to Eve Olsen. She's in the studio. You are doing a book signing a week from Saturday at the Bellevue Public Library. And what time will you be there? Oh, 10 o'clock?
It's 10 to 2, and it's the Author's Corner, so there'll be several authors from this area. I'm not quite sure how many. I'm also going to be doing signings over at Bonefish on Thursday night.
Okay.
This Thursday? Okay.
And I will be at Mary's, the Blue Wagyu at Artisanal Dish again on Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I love supporting Mary. Mary's been amazing. The Outback will have us in on Saturday.
Nice.
We were at Las Margaritas yesterday
Okay.
and at the Tax Shack horsey sale over the weekend.
Where's the Las Margaritas?
Nice.
Where's
Las
that?
Margaritas is in the Dillard's Mall.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
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 Same
yes,
place the
yes.
Crazy Cucumber is. Crazy
Gotcha,
Cucumber
yeah.
has hosted me several times.
Okay.
They're wonderful over there.
Oh, isn't that marvelous?
The restaurants have been terrific venues, and been a surprise at how many books actually sell every time we go to the restaurants.
Are you
But the books are very readable. They are not
Oh no, they're fun. They're very enjoyable. Wife Wanted is a very enjoyable read, and then the book for young readers. I mean, gosh, you really are very eclectic in your writing. You seem to keep both genres separated.
Well, each has its own story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited
Do
because
you have
my
children?
latest one, Crack Shot, is coming out next month or
What's
two.
it called? Crack Shot?
Crack Shot, and it's a three-part story about the 1880s, which was the period of the nobility ranches once the railroad had gone through. And the second sons and the wealthy, who didn't have the big plantations or farms or whatever on the East Coast, were going out to make their own fortunes.
Oh,
So they were
wonderful.
starting with something. They weren't starting with nothing. And once again, my heroines are always strong characters because I believe one should be able to do anything.
But they're very vulnerable too. The one in here is she's also vulnerable.
well,
I mean,
she's also
she's got
been
the
damaged,
strengths,
yeah.
but she's has that vulnerability, and women and men relate to that.
Well, we're all a little bit of everything, I think.
Yeah. Is it hard to write a character that is completely opposite of you, or is that easy?
It's funny. I think that inside of you, you're everything. And I can always see everybody else's point of view. It's not always been a great thing for me that I can see everybody's point of view.
Right.
But yeah, so I can understand, well, if coming from their end and looking at it from their side. And I had a board up as a kid, never judge a man until you've walked a mile in his moccasins. And I still feel that way, so I always can see everything from everybody's side.
You'd be tripping if you wore my shoes. They're just so big. My shoes are just way too big. I don't even know that they make moccasins for me.
Have you ever considered being a speaker to youth groups, because you're so positive, and right now we need somebody that's a good mentor?
Somebody suggested it to me. If somebody offered me something to do like that, I'd be happy to. I believe people can do anything. My mother always told me that if you work hard and you want to do things, you can do it. You might not be able to do it brilliantly, but you can do it. So I always just go for it. It's okay if the project turns out as good or fair and not amazing.
Yes.
You just go for it, and failure is not a problem. You learn from each and everything you do.
I think you're an inspiration, Eve.
Thank you.
I think you're making a big difference for all of us. The Enchanted Hollow is the young adult readers, right? I don't know about children. Do you think?
It's more young adult. Anybody who is a friend of mine read it to her younger child who was 6, and they loved it too.
And Wife Wanted is for the rest of us.
But
so.
I was informed by a friend of ours who's a museum curator.
Uh-huh.
He just bought a copy for his sister who's 70 years old.
Well, sure.
And he loved it.
I love
he
him.
He said,
Yes.
please don't say this is a children's book. He
I
said
know.
it's not.
Well, okay. Here's how I look at that. If it's like Wife Wanted, you might not want to give that to the kids. Do you?
To the young
No,
adults.
Wife Wanted is not for children.
What's that?
Wife Wanted is not for children.
Right, but Enchanted.
But-
when you say a children's book, I think it means it's okay for children. But yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna like it too, and so
Yeah.
so is my great grandmother if she's up there somewhere.
Well, I call it my G-rated book.
See, there you go. There you go.
It's G-rated. You can read it to your younger children. You
Yeah,
can give it
yeah.
to your second grader and not worry that anything is going to be inappropriate or
Yeah.
that they shouldn't read. And you can. And I had a 16-year-old reader who told me that she just loved it, and she said, "Fabulous horse." So
Eve, do you have a website?
do not have a website. I am on Instagram and Facebook in public galleries,
Okay.
And you have a YouTube channel.
and I've started my YouTube channel. Yes, and it's Eve A. Olsen. And at Eve A. Olsen, all one word.
Let me just show the covers of the books real quickly one more time. This is the cover of Wife Wanted. Your beautiful pictures, both of them, and your beautiful illustration on the Enchanted Hollow. Thank you, Phil. Saying goodbye to Phil. And there you are with your horse. What's the horse's name?
That was His Royal Highness, HRH.
Oh, that's the one you speak loudly to?
Exactly. Well, he's no longer with us. He died in 2014 at the age of 33.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my gosh.
I rode him every other day for
broke your
26
heart,
years.
didn't it?
Oh, my.
No, because he lived. I miss him, but he lived the life that everybody should live. He never knew he grew old. Did his own thing right till the last day.
Can I ask?
And when he was shutting down, I did the right thing. And I miss him
That's
terribly,
always hard.
but it's
yeah.
it's very comforting that somebody should have had the perfect life. You
All right,
know?
I
We should all
gotta-
be so lucky. He was 33 years old.
I have
Yeah,
a Barbara
exactly.
Walters kind of a question.
Oh, there you go.
I know you said you don't subscribe to any religion, and I'm not saying you were reincarnated, but if you had been reincarnated, who do you think you were 100 years ago or more?
Nobody's special, a drowned sailor, because I can sail any ship, but if I'm out of sight of land, it scares the living daylights out of me.
Eve, thank you for coming in. I hope we see more of you.
Well, I'd love to be back.
Don't be a stranger.
Thank you so much.
And good luck with the book signing. For everybody, just remember, Eve will be at the Bellevue Public Library on the 7th from 10 a.m. till 2 p.m. Go say hi to Eve, read her books, and
or check me out on Amazon. I'm there.
Yes, I found both of them on Amazon, and great reviews, as a matter of fact. Thank you, Eve.
Thank you so much.
We'll be right back.
If you find an animal or a bird that needs help, call Animus Foundation at 352-843